Hello and welcome to this Beer Clipper video. Now this is part one of a two-part series that I'm making for Dungeons and Dreadnoughts, who is running a Kickstarter campaign at the moment, and I've been a member of his tribes and his patron for a very long time. I do believe I was patron backer number one, way back in the day. Now he hasn't asked me even to do this. I offered to take one of the files from the Kickstarter, which I am backing, and get it printed and assembled and painted and put out a couple of videos to try and drum up and get it over the line, because as I stand recording, I think we're $1,300 short of the initial funding goal, funding target, and there's 19 days to go, which means that when this goes live, which is going to be tomorrow, there'll be 18 days to go. So if you are interested in this, if you like what you see, then jump over and go on, give it a back. I'll link to the Kickstarter in the description below. But I hasten to add, I have not been given anything or even asked to do this. This is just me on my own attempting to drum up that fun little push over the line. So let's see if we can get him there. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you again at the end. Well, I've just downloaded the file for the Cyber Lieutenant, and as you can see, it comes with light chi, and then it comes with two folders, one called pre-supported and one called unsupported, which have the individual STLs. Now, because I use light chi, I have just opened light chi up, and what we've got here, and apologies, I didn't fancy doing this on a screen capture, so it's just my camera pointing at the screen. What we've got here is the light chi file as it comes in the zip file, as you've just seen. So everything is pre-supported. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm just going to print it as it comes. You can see it looks like a pretty nicely supported set of files, and I can tell you that having printed stuff from him before, it just works first time out the box. So I'm going to slice this. If you haven't used light chi before, then the way I recommend light chi over pretty much everything else, I've found it to be the best tool. So if we have a look at the top, you've got those icons at the top, and what you're going to do is you're going to hit export and then export slices to file. That will then give you the option of where you want to export it to. I'm just going to export it into the same folder for now. I will move it later to where I normally save my files, and because I have a pretty fast computer, that will slice it very quickly indeed, and you can see at the top the bar going along, and it works very quickly. So it's 851 slices, and it says it's going to take about 2.5 hours. So, it's decided to unfocus, apologies. So there we are, about 2.5 hours, and about 13 mil of resin, so not a very large amount. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that down and put it on onto the printer, and I'll bring you along and show you how I set my printer up, and then we'll see how well it prints. Hopefully it'll print very well. As you can see, I have my printers. I have a Saturn and a Mars 2 inside this grow tent, and the reason for that is I have a heater which is on a thermostatic plug. In the winter, which is not now, it's warm enough still, I can keep the inside of this at a constant temperature, and I can print even though it might be actually freezing in the main room. The other thing it does, it keeps all the dust off the machine, so I don't need to put my covers on. It's really cool. I've done a full video about this, which I will attempt to link. I don't know where it goes, somewhere along the top anyway. I'll link that and also in the description if you want to look about that, so I won't go into any more detail. So I'm going to print on the Saturn, which might seem a little bit of overkill for what we're looking at printing, but whatever, don't care. So we'll put the USB drive in, and I always struggle to do this even when the camera isn't running. There we are. The really key thing to remember to do is screw your VAT down very securely. I can tell you what, I've forgotten to do that before, and what you find is basically your VAT just gets picked up. And so you come to it and your VAT will be stuck to your build plate, and you'll be very frustrated. So I use water washable resin from Elegoo. I don't go for any of these fancy mixes. I know a lot of people do go for a fancy mix with like mixing different Soraya and what have you, but I've only ever done this, and it's worked fine for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some of that, after giving it a good shake, into the vat. There we are. So we're nearly ready to press go. What I'm going to do is give those another quick twist, and then I'm going to go and grab my build plate and my magnetic sheet, and I'll get that attached and tell you about that. So one of the best aftermarket things you can buy is one of these magnetic sheets. Now, I'm not going to go into detail in this video as well, because I did do a video specifically about that, which I will also link in the description and in the top corner if I remember. But what we do is we basically have it has a adhesive magnetic foam thing which goes onto the actual plate, and then this magnetizes on, and as you can see, it magnetizes on very, very strongly. So we'll attach that in. Top tip, always make sure that you put the tab at the back, because otherwise it will catch on the vat and then you'll be having a bad day, because you'll be wondering why you're getting horrible grinding noises. So you make sure that's tight, make sure that's all lined up, turn the machine on and wait for it to boot up, and then we will press go. Now, I don't have a camera set up to watch the whole print, I'm really sorry about that, so we won't be able to watch all that sped up, but we will be able to check this out after it's finished. So then we go to print and we select the file, which is the Cyber Lieutenant or Lieutenant, depending on what side of the Atlantic you're on. And what I always do, because I've been bitten so many times by accidentally knocking the alignment on the build plate or something going wrong, I always have my finger, zoom slightly out, hovering over the stop. Because if it makes a horrible, horrible noise, then I can react and I'm not going to burn my motor out. So that's just something that I always do. But this, fingers crossed, this should work, because I printed something only the other day. There we are, gets to the bottom, and we're going. So I will now leave that. The printer, which often says a different time to the slicer, the printer says 2 hours and 24 minutes. That's pretty much what I think the slicer said, so that's cool. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to zip the front of this grow tent up, and we'll return in a few hours and see whether it is printed. Well, when I went to bed last night, this still was running, so I left it overnight, and now comes the exciting bit. We find out whether it has printed and get it cleaned off and then dried and then put in the cure. So I'll open the tent, which does mean I need a stool because I can't quite reach the top on my own. I'll get that opened and then we'll have a look together at whether it succeeded or not. Well, here we are. First of all, we can see that it took longer to print than it claimed it was going to. It says 2 hours 43, not 2:24, which is interesting. However, if we go in underneath, we can see that it looks good, I think. That looks like that's printed fine. So what I'm going to do now is I will get some gloves on. I will then undo this nut here, and I will take this over and put it in boiling water, very hot water, and then that will help me to take the supports off and will also clean the print, and that's how I do it. Now, lots of people do this in different ways, but that's how I do it. So I'll go get my gloves on and then you can see how I do this. Right, so as you can see, I've got an old kind of washing up bowl, and I use this only for this. You can see it's covered in resin because it's only used for this, and this means that I am able to carry this across the room without dripping resin everywhere. I also need to remember to turn the printer off. So let's take this over to the sink and I'll show you how I work it out. And before anyone says this does not go down the drain, I will show you my little trick that I've got, which is personal to me, but I'll show you my little trick that I've got that helps me to not pour resin down the drain. So here we are, this is my workshop sink, so I don't wash up in this. And that's just hot water, boiling hot water. And I've not put my sleeves up, so this could get a bit annoying. But what we do here is the first rinse I do is just to clean the whole thing, including the print plate, this. And then I have some old rags, some J-cloths as I would call them. And what I do with those is I quickly rinse and put that to dry straight away. And then this goes in the boiling hot water, which actually isn't all that hot, but it should be okay. And once that's hot, once that's covered, I will leave that to soak for a little while. So I'll be back a bit later and we'll continue washing these, and I'll show you how I do it. But yeah, I'm not going to put these down the drain. I just want to say this now. You will see in a short while what solution I've got to prevent that from being a problem. while I'm waiting for that to clean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty my vat. So I bought one of these, which is awesome, and if I can find it again, I will link it in the description. So it's a filter, a very fine filter that I use to pour my resin through. Now, you don't technically need to do this after every print, but if you're a beginner and you're not totally sure, it's a good idea, because if there's any failures at all or anything floating around, then that could cause a failure in your next print or even break your screen. And it's as simple as this, and I don't know how well this is going to film, but what I do is I will pour this out through the nozzle on the vat, and then as it gets near the top, you will almost certainly not get it all in one go. Just use the scraper that you receive with your Elegoo to scrape all of that resin off, and then go and do something else while you wait for that resin to drip through, and then come back and check every 5 minutes or so. And then once that's all drained through, what I do is I will wash the vat and all of the tools in boiling hot water again to make sure no resin sticks in them, and then they'll be ready for use for the next print. Well, I just went to empty the rest of this out, and I have noticed, if you see, that we did have a print failure, which is very disappointing in one sense, because I hoped we wouldn't, because I wanted to show that this would print straight out of the box. But also it does show why it's so important, even when you think you've been fully successful, to clean out your vat. I mean, I would have noticed when I checked the actual print that as I clean it, but yeah, you never can tell if you've had a print failure until you look at things closely. This also gives me the opportunity just to show how I make use of this scraper, just to kind of get as much of this resin out of here as possible, because I don't like waste. And yeah, we'll let that drip through. I was away about 25 minutes, took my daughter to school, and in that time that had all dripped through, so we'll let that drip through again, and then we'll wash all of this in boiling water, the same as we are the actual print. Talking of which, let's go over and see if that's ready. So here we are. I added a little bit more water because I left my boiler on. And if we have a look at this, you can see that yes, right there in the middle, there is where the print failed. So what I'm going to do is, before I do anything else, I'm going to quickly take a picture of that so I can remember exactly which part has failed, and then I'll print only that part, and then we'll be rocking and rolling. So I'll grab a quick picture and then be back to show you how I finish cleaning these up. So here we are. As you can see, I've got some old tea towels bought purposely for this, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take everything off of the build plate, and I'll be able to actually take it off the supports as well. And if you'll notice, with the boiling hot water, that literally fell off the support. So I still need to do a little bit of cleanup on that. But yeah, that's why I use the boiling hot water, because it really does, it melts the supports really well, particularly well done supports like that. So what this is going to need to do is going to need to go back over and be washed as well, but let's put that to one side. And what we'll look at is what's come off the build plate. So what's come off the build plate looks like this. And you can see as I'm holding it, the things are just falling off, which is exactly what you want. There's one of the other items. So what I'll do is I will very carefully, and it really is just as easy as dipping it in the hot water if they start to become more difficult to come off. That just loosens it. And then I place them onto my mat to dry. So let's get everything removed. Last bit. Make sure we've not lost anything. So have a good look at that sprue. There's nothing left stuck on that. Trust me, I've done that before. There's one that's fallen right down inside. There we are. So that's going to go in the bin. I'm going to empty this water, and I'm going to show you basically why I don't have to worry about this going down the drain. Right, so I've set my camera up, and now I'm in the other room, pouring the water down the drain, as you can hear. And if we wait just a couple of seconds, that is going to start pouring out, and you can see that I've placed a bucket to catch it. Now this is very specific to me and how I've got the plumbing set up in here, but yeah, you don't want to be pouring this stuff down the drain. That resin isn't very nice, and it shouldn't really be going down any normal drain. But there we are. That's how I do that. So I'll bring you back just to show you how I'm going to take this failure off of the vat, and then we will be looking at doing the curing later on today. So you can see it's still emptying. and here is the failure that's on the vat, and all I'm doing is gently pressing from the other side, and there it is, it's moved. So that can now go into the bin, and I will wait for that to finish draining through, and then I'll wash it again, boiling hot water, scrub it, and then leave it to drain, leave it to dry, and then that's the whole process done in terms of printing. Next up, we'll have a look at the curing process. So this is my curing station. I've left these to dry for several hours, and what we've got on the plate is everything that you need to actually assemble the first model. What also comes here is some separate pieces if you want to do slightly different pose. One thing I have noticed is that I don't see the second body. I don't know whether that failed to print as well. I'm going to go and have a quick look, so I didn't just notice that. But I'm going to cure everything because you may as well, and they can go into a bits box and maybe be used and cut up and what have you. So what we do is we put the top on, and we make sure that we've selected our little light bulb down here, which is our curing one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on, and I do it for 3.5 to 4 minutes at least. And then when that's done, I'll turn everything over, put it on for another 3.5 to 4 minutes, and then it's done. Now, if you do not have one of these machines and you live in a sunny country, you're fine. You could potentially leave your models on the windowsill in the direct sunlight, and they will eventually actually get cured, but that takes a long time. This is far quicker, and I would highly recommend picking up a curing machine if you don't have one and you're going to be looking at doing some 3D printing with a resin printer. It will make a big difference to your life, just much easier. Now this actually does have a wash station as well. One of the reasons why I use the water washable is because I don't like the smell of the alcohol and the messiness of the alcohol, but this also has a little fan thing, and it'll like bubble up the alcohol and clean your minis for you as well. The alternative to that, of course, with regard to water washable or even alcohol washable, is to get a I can't remember what it's called, but get one of those cleaning vats, ultrasonic cleaner, that's the word. Get an ultrasonic cleaner, and you can use that as well. So anyway, what we're going to do now is hit start, and then in 4 minutes I'll come back, and I will swap them over. It just spins inside, as you can see, and runs. It's not very loud, but I do have it down here in my workshop. Well, here we are, and I printed off an extra of the shoulder pads, and I want to make it very clear. Two things. First of all, the files that I've been given are pre-files. They're not finalised, and so I've been acting as a bit of a test printer, yeah, so that's one thing. And we've identified the issue with the body part that dropped off. The other thing is that I was an idiot and threw away the other shoulder pad. So it was there and I just didn't see it. So what we're going to do now is the last part of this video, which is we're going to stick the whole thing together, and I will then do a follow-up video probably of me painting it, but for this one I'm just going to do the sticking together. So what I use Loctite gel glue, which I find to be really good. And the other reason I use it is it used to be accessible and available really easily at a local supermarket, but the last few times I've been, they've not had any, which is very concerning for me because I'm slowly starting to run out. So what I do is I put a little blob of super glue on the back, as you can see, not a huge amount but not a small amount either. And the good thing with this resin printing, well, the bad thing with trying to do this on camera is you're not really holding it in a natural place, but the good thing about resin printing is super glue generally catches quite quickly. So you just need to hold it for a little while, and I'll stay recording and nattering while I hold it so you can see, and then it grabs pretty quickly. And I'm going to put the backpack on first because that's going to mean that I have a little bit more understanding of where my arms can go. So you can see that is grabbed nicely. So next one I'm going to do is going to be the head. So a little blob in that little notch there. Find the head, make sure it's pointing forwards, and put it in. And at this point you're going to need to work out where you want him to be looking. So I actually want him looking, I think, over to his right, like that. So there we are, you can see that's now held well enough. I've got Xena, one of my dogs, crying at the door to let in. Poor little pup. So now we're going to do this arm, which is the arm with the knife. Now obviously you could put it up in a very dynamic view like that, but that's not what I want. I'm going to put it so he's kind of just poised and prepared, and this really is very hard to do while keeping it in shot. There we are. I've probably got super glue on my finger now. Yes, I do. But you just hold that in place without getting super glue on your finger, and it grabs. You can see how quick that is, and you can see how quick this whole process is. The clip, including the intro, is still less than 3 minutes, and I've almost completely finished assembly. So he's going to be carrying his sidearm kind of down against his leg a little bit, like that. And again, that's how quick you have to hold it for. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to stick on the shoulder pads, which have the 3 stripes to show his lieutenant. So they fit on really nicely like that, and then we'll put the other one on, and then we're done. Now I'm going to be editing and publishing this video as a part 1 and doing the painting as a part 2, mainly because when you've just glued your miniature together, you need to leave it. Even though the super glue might seem like it's dry, you need to leave it. I leave it for a good day before I start priming and painting, because sometimes it seems that the moisture or the liquid content of the primer and the paint reactivates the super glue, and then you ruin a brush, and that's very, very frustrating because you don't realise, and then at the end you realise all of your all of the brush hairs are stuck together, and yeah, it's very annoying. So there we are, printed and assembled, and apart from me being an idiot on the shoulder pad, and one little thing for the other more posable style of miniature, even the test print has come out perfectly first time. So yeah, pretty pleased with that. Hopefully that's been interesting. Let's get some pictures, and then we'll sum up. Well, there he is. Didn't take very long to assemble and was very easy to print, apart from one stupid where I accidentally lost the shoulder pad and the failure, which we've already resolved in the files. So I hope you found that very interesting. I tried to focus that as onto very much beginners. The next video, this is part 1, the next video, part 2, will be painting and showing how I paint this, just to again aim very much at beginners. If you haven't ever used a 3D printer, it's really easy, and I've got a lot of videos actually about learning how I learned, and so this is just to show you and encourage you to get involved if you're interested. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you're going to back, let me know if you're not. I'd love to hear from you anyway, and if you made it this far, I really do appreciate it. I'll wrap up by saying, as I always do in all of my videos, thank you very much for watching. To everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.